What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, what's going on with other factors following the markets, and what you should be watching for as time progresses. Before I break the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you are guaranteed 7 free stocks, and the offer ends in just about 3 weeks. Anyways, for NIO right now, we aren't looking that great right now with a possible head and shoulders like structure that's developing. And if we end up losing some key supports, there's going to likely be more downside coming. So I'm going to give you guys a warning about that, how that's starting to form on the charts and what you should be watching for at least moving forward. But first, let's talk about what's happening with some data, what's going on with some earnings before I break down the charts. Tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. There's not really a whole lot of data coming out. We do have the wholesale inventories at 10 a.m., very minor data. And besides that, there's not really a whole lot going on. We also have Jefferson from the Fed giving a speech at 11 o'clock a.m., and Collins giving a speech at 11:45 a.m., and then also Cook giving a speech at 1:30 p.m. That's it. Just a couple of bill auctions at 11:30. So very, very minor data and just a few Fed speakers. But that is pretty much it, at least in terms of what we're seeing. So there's nothing too crazy coming out. We're going to be watching to see how things kind of go moving forward. And that's pretty much it, at least for the time being. Now, going into what else is coming out, the puts and call option positioning is currently at fear. We're pretty fearful right now. We're not very neutral, not super extremely fearful. We are getting closer to neutral, but now this is actually shifting back down a little bit as the market starts to dip a bit. And we'll see if this ends up continuing or not. Momentum is greedy for now, but things are shifting. We also have, once again, the puts and call option positioning at fear, as we're starting to see more puts being bought for the market right now. So this might start increasing as sellers start stepping in again at the current levels that we are at. There's a shift right now as shorts are returning. The VIX is dipping. Excuse me. The VIX is dipping as we're approaching some very, very key supports. We'll have to see if that ends up continuing to be the case or not. So be very, very patient with that. And besides that, there's not really a whole lot else that's going on. Now, for earnings, for tomorrow, we have Uber, not to mention Shopify and a few others. Then after the market closes, we have ARM, Airbnb, and AMC. But for today, we just had Rivian announce its earnings after the market closed. So for Rivian, we had their Q1 results. Revenue was a beat, but earnings ended up missing. Q4 profit was reaffirmed. So not too bad, if anything, but I just want to say that they did miss on some of these different sectors. So when it comes to what ended up coming out, basically, when it came to what we ended up seeing, we ended up getting results right over here. They showed that they beat the analysts with the $1.2 billion revenue report, which wasn't as bad, but their loss wasn't as great, with about a loss of $1.48 per share, worse than expected. So revenue is good, but their overall profitability was not the best. And when it comes to their overall improvements, they have completed some plant shutdowns, which started on April 5th, if anything. They've just reopened. And as far as things go moving forward, they're expecting a slight positive gross profit in Q4, which is not bad whatsoever. So some growth has been expected and some improvements have been made. Moving forward, I just want to call out that as far as NIO goes, NIO's sub-brand Onvo and BYD batteries are going to be incorporated with them. And that's actually some interesting news. Excuse me. They're also they're renovating its battery pack production lines, if anything, moving forward. And it's going to supply us a battery pack that's a little bit smaller for Onvos. It's actually be a lot more useful. With that, NIO buys most of its batteries from CATL. It filed for the use of batteries from another smaller battery maker. And moving forward, things will change as well. BYD will supply a smaller battery pack for one version of Onvo's new EVs. That's what Reuters has been essentially saying. And we'll see what else changes moving forward. There have been some very, very nice reports, though, in terms of their growth and such. And this is actually very exciting because the new model has helped the share price improve. But we will see what battery packs they're going to be using. There are reports saying it's going to be by BYD. For McGuire, they reiterated a neutral rating. Also seeing the price-price ratio kind of increasing slightly. And in terms of other pieces of data, Tuesdays do have a tendency of being green about 55% of the time. Wednesdays are green about 56% of the time. And we tend to see more volatility at 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and also during the final hour of the day. But with that being said, when it comes to other factors, we have about 43.5 million being the volume. It's a little bit below average. So NIO is dipping on lower volume. And overall, with volume slowing down, the share price is not looking that great, in my opinion. So I am seeing a possible head and shoulders that could be developing that could lead to more downside, at least for the share price. And we'll have to see if that ends up being the case. But that's a little pop and drop like move. Now that we're struggling right here, we have like a left shoulder here, a head and a right shoulder. If we end up losing support right here at this 5.3 area, there could be a move all the way back down to this imbalance, down to 4.7 all over again. So we'll just have to wait and see if that ends up being the case and we get this dip. So watch and see how things end up developing. But looking at NIO, there is potential downside as a strong possibility. We'll have to see if that ends up dipping even more, and that could lead to a big shift in the share price for now. So watch and see if we end up dipping to 5.26 on lower levels, and just know that there is more downside potential if we lose key support zones. For a few more, we also have SPY. SPY is looking a little bearish right now, so we also happen to have a head and shoulders like structure. We're kind of topping right over here. And there's been a big rejection right here. So it looks to me like this is going to likely start dipping very, very soon. And we could come all the way down towards our 50 EMA at the 513s by tomorrow if we end up losing 516 as support. So there could be a little dip coming to SPY. The question is, will we end up approaching previous resistance becoming support at 512? Do we bounce off that and then continue higher, or do we end up losing that? It doesn't matter. I do anticipate some downside first before we get to the next move, but look for some more potential downside as the most likely possibility. For Tesla, Tesla was trading within a range. It's been stuck between 178 and 185. It's been dipping a little bit, so there is a risk of it dipping a little bit more towards 175. And I just want to say that right here, with this potentially dipping, we're going to be watching to see how it ends up reacting. But there is a risk of Tesla dipping a bit since we close below 178, and 175 is a real possibility. If we lose that, we could even come down to fill this gap at 169. So just be prepared for that and just be open-minded nonetheless. For Nvda, we're also dipping a bit. We're going to be looking for this thing to potentially test 900. Losing that opens the doors for a 50 EMA test at 895. And if that fails us, we're going to dip even lower. So that could lead to even more downside. Onto the QQQ. The QQQ also has a similar structure as that of SPY. I do see some risk of downside on this chart. So it could actually dip all the way down towards the 50 EMA at 437. So watch for that. And then in addition to all of that, we also have Aapl. Apple's also looking a bit more bearish as we're going to likely retest 181. Losing that could cause us to dip all the way down to 180. So I do see a little bit of potential downside coming throughout the markets. And I think that this could contribute to NIO. So for NIO, I do see some downside potential. I want to call that out and give you guys a nice heads up about that. And we'll wait and see how things end up going. But with that being said, guys, please be prepared and make sure you watch your levels. If NIO breaks 5.66, we could go up to 5.8 and turn back up. If we fail to do so, we could dip. So I do anticipate it's going to chop a bit in this range before it starts dipping all the way down to 5.26, if not lower levels. So I think the market's going to dip a bit, and make sure you're prepared for that and make sure you're ready just going into tomorrow. It's just going to be temporarily. So we'll see how things go after that. But with that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate every single one of you for watching these videos. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I'll see you guys very, very soon on the next video. Thank you for listening. NIO to the moon because the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.